Welcome to the Leap Hour, where inspiring leadership meets real-world impact. Hosted by Steve Farber, acclaimed author of The Radical Leap, this show brings you face-to-face with visionary leaders who embody the art of leading with love, energy, audacity, and proof. In each episode, Steve dives deep into the journeys of remarkable individuals who've embraced extreme leadership to ignite change, spark innovation, and inspire others to greatness. These are the game changers, the risk takers, and the leaders who prove that heart and courage can change the world. This is the Leap Hour, and the conversation starts now.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Leap Hour, episode number 4. Thanks for joining me. Whether you're live with us right now or watching at some later time, just really happy that you've tuned in. Just a quick overview as to what this series is about. If this is your first time tuning in, it's about my hair needing a little fixing. So the first book that I wrote, The Radical Leap, came out 20 years ago this year. Amazing but true, and it's had an impact on a lot of people. And one of the unintended and wonderful consequences for me is that through the release of that book, I've met some really incredible people. I mean, really incredible people. And I'm bringing some of those folks to you in this series to hear their stories, to hear about their philosophies of leadership, their approach to leadership, and their experience in applying the principles of the Radical Leap, which is to cultivate love, generate energy, inspire audacity, and provide proof. And as part of our celebration of this 20-year anniversary of the first publication of the Radical Leap, we're giving away a free download of the audiobook, The Radical Leap. So if you haven't read it, this is my gift to you. If you go to radicalleap.org, you can download the book from there for free. And I encourage you to do that. So my guest today is Cesar Enciso, who is the CEO of EVOTEK, company based in San Diego. Cesar is a recipient of the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year Award. EVOTEK has been a best place to work company, all kinds of awards, which we'll hear about. And what's one of the things that I find really inspiring about Cesar, not just his beautiful heart and incredible business brain, but he has created a company that has a culture that focuses very significantly on the development of their people in all kinds of ways. So he's a leader from the heart, a leader of who embodies this whole idea of cultivating love. And Cesar, thanks so much for joining me here today, man.
Thanks, Dave. Super excited, and I appreciate you inviting me, and excited for our talk.
Well, I'm always thrilled to be able to introduce you to my friends, and I'm also always thrilled to be able to connect more directly with your community, because you have an incredible community. So let's start with the high level, and just tell us a little bit about EVOTEK, so we have kind of the business context for this, and then we'll just take it from there.
Yeah, and I'll even take it one step further, because I started an EVOTEK-like business in early 2006. It was a company called Kanai Technologies, and Kanai stands for Constant and Never-Ending Improvement. And it was a business that I was super excited about, and but I didn't really have all the skills. And when I started the business, and when I put the business plan together, it was most definitely more about my customers and myself, and I had an early order from one of the big retailers here in San Diego. It was a few $1,000,000, and basically the distributor that I was working with wanted to use my house as collateral. And at that time, Steve, I'm like, that doesn't sound right. And I returned the order back to the customer, and I just didn't think that, me growing up so financially unstable, I just didn't think that was a good deal, putting my house at risk for something that that might go sideways for hundreds of different reasons. So I went back to corporate America, and in 2008, my VP Chris White handed me the book, The Radical Leap. And Chris knew I was a big reader, and it just really kind of struck me, Steve, on what some of the things that I was really missing from the personality of my business. And after reading it, I started, journaling, and I started putting the business plan back together. And I knew one day I would, do another Kanai technology like. And in late 2014, I started EVOTEK. This time I was a little smarter. I actually had capital. I bootstrapped it, and I bootstrapped it with 4 other employees. And the idea was to make sure that no matter what, I could pay them for the next 3 years, even if we didn't have any revenue. And we're fortunate. Our first year, we went from 0 to about $32 million. So
that was your first year.
That was our first year, and I told my partner at the time that it was going to take 3 years to pay back. I put in $1.4 million into the business, Steve. And I told her that it would take us 3 years to get those dollars back. And within 9 months, all the monies were returned, which was a huge relief.
So that's I think technically we call that not a bad start. So just so people can conceptualize this, what business is EVOTEK in? What is it that you're selling and providing?
So we help companies with their IT needs. If it's from their standard data center needs, if it's storage, if it's their cybersecurity needs, if it's helping with resources, if they are light in IT needs, anything that is really that is really necessary to actually run an organization, IT needs.
Okay, so is it? Are you in the category of the value-added reseller sort of thing?
It is, and I still have a hard time saying VAR. Just so you know.
Yeah.
And when I put the business plan together, because when I think of VAR, I think majority of the VARs out there, they really have forgotten the V part of VAR, the value, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I started the business plan, I had VARs here, Steve, and then I had Accenture up here. And I thought there was a place for somebody to put a business plan together to meet somewhere in the middle. Okay. How do you build out a business with really high-end advisors to be able to really go at it from a different perspective? Because anybody could sell you a box. Right. So I still have a hard time saying VAR. For the first 4 years, I was trying to come up with a new category.
Mm-hmm.
I could just never get creative enough to really get the company or Gartner to put a new category out there.
Right.
But I tried.
So if I'm hearing you right, the industry term is value-added reseller, and those are companies that take some bit of the box, as you say, some bit of technology, and sell it to a bigger company, and the value-added piece is supposed to be the consulting and implementation and all that side of the equation. But if I'm just reselling it to you, I'm still going to call myself a VAR.
Yes.
And what you guys are saying is we're going to put the emphasis on the value add side, which is the consulting, the human brilliance that you guys offer to your clients. And that it seems paid off right out of the gate for you.
Yeah, and an early example of that, Steve, is we had another large retailer here in San Diego, and we set up a meeting with them. They believed that they needed to upgrade their storage environment, and they had bids from 3 other integrators for over $4 million. And when we went, we really spent the majority of our meeting on the requirements and their needs and why they were doing it. And what we looked at was that they had 80% of the environment already in place, and they really didn't need to upgrade. They needed to put some new policies and some new retention, and they need to just get some services. The average bid at that time was a little over $4 million. Our service proposal is basically $300,000 at the time. And, they looked at us in the beginning and like, are you guys sure? And, so the majority of what we try to do is really go into it from an advisory standpoint, not, hey, how can we sell you more gear? And, we've been really, really successful. A lot of our employees are, former CISOs, former CIOs, former CTOs, and they're practitioners. And they have the ability to really understand what our clients are going through because they've been in their shoes.
Right. So fast forward us to today. You started first year. You said 2016?
No, Q4 of 2014. So it's our 10-year anniversary, Steve.
Oh, this is the 10-year anniversary. Right. Okay. So 10 years later, where are you guys at now?
We're a couple hundred employees in. We're about 240 employees. We do a little north of 500 million. We're in 9 different regions, and we're the fastest growing cybersecurity integrator in North America.
Wow. Well, congratulations. It's no surprise. But tell us, this is a very simplistic question. From a culture standpoint, tell us how you did it. Tell us how you're doing it. What is it about the EVOTEK culture that attracts the kind of talent, attracts and keeps the kind of talent that you've been able to get?
Yeah, and it's interesting. The attract and keep are really 2 different things, and I'll explain what that really means. Mm-hmm. So the idea, when you read a lot of the business books out there, Steve, you hear that the most important piece of the puzzle is one might have the shareholders, one might have the customers, and one of the things from day one was the philosophy that our employees are really the true asset, and if you treat your employees and you make them feel safe and secure, they will do more for your customers than trying to focus on shareholders and customers. So we started off doing a lot of things that a lot of people recommended me not to do. So we pay 100% of healthcare for every single one of our employees.
Wow.
Right. We pay up to $6,500, of a 401k for every single one of our employees. Right. We make sure that when our employees are maybe getting a little little tired or a little burned out, that they take time off, right? So by focusing on our employees' well-being, what we get in turn is we get very active employees that act like owners, and they care, and they want to make EVOTEK a better place, right? And you know, the interesting part about it is, what scared me the most when I started the business was, now, I've always been a big believer, being bigger doesn't mean you're better, but how do you protect a culture was always goal number one. And what scared me was growing the business, right? And we just got awarded 2 days ago, best place to work from Outside Magazine. And when I was going through the list, they basically gave the award to 50 companies in North America. And what was interesting is less than 80%, more than 80%, I should say, more than 80% of those that got awarded were less than 100 employees.
Right.
Because it's hard to protect culture.
Yes. So it's interesting because a lot of the, when I look at my clientele, the Extreme Leadership Institute, the companies that we do more of the consulting work with and the coaching work, keynote speaking is a different animal, but most of them are in that small to mid-sized category.
Yeah,
I think for that reason, right? Because you have that opportunity to not just give lip service to the idea that you need support from the top of the organization if you're gonna do something significant with your culture, which every company says that that's true. Putting it into practice is another thing altogether, and it's just a lot easier because you have, well, for you, for example, you have personal contact with literally everybody in the company to whatever degree you want to. It doesn't mean that everybody that runs a 200 person or 250 person company has that contact or makes use of that contact, but it's there if you want to. So you get that proximity effect where you can hear what's going on and they can hear your vision more readily instead of just relegating it to a once a year meeting or whatever, or an occasional email or whatever.
Yeah, and that's what I probably struggled with the most is, the first couple of years I knew every single one of my employees, their birthdays, their kids' names, their spouses' names, when they started with the company. The first year we used to get together almost on a daily basis. And when you grow out the business, it's harder and harder to do that.
Right. So how do you do it? How do you do it now versus in the early days when you were all elbow to elbow?
So the thing that has been, one of the other beautiful assets we have here at EVOTEK is our leadership team. I do believe I have the best leadership team in the industry, and being able to delegate, if it's strategy with our distribution, if it's strategy with our partners, it gives me the ability to continue to keep culture top of mind. And what one of the things that I really do love about EVOTEK is, I lead from the front, but every single one of my leaders, has the same approach. There's not one executive that is not customer facing. Right? We don't have anybody that's, in an ivory tower,
Right.
just barking orders.
Yeah.
Right. So, my goal is to see or talk to 12 customers a week. And, there's times I don't hit that goal, but, all of the leaders have a goal of what makes this place special, which is our employees, our customers, and our partners.
Right. So you are literally putting on the calendar your face-to-face time with customers.
Yes.
As part of your measurable goals. Do you do the same thing with internal folks? Do you have on your calendar how you're going to get face-to-face time with employees, et cetera?
So I used to. Now what I do is, most people have gaps in their schedule, and I take that gap. I carry around my org chart, and I pick and choose if it's, a service delivery manager, if it's an account manager, if it's, one of our CISOs. And, I probably average, Steve, 25, employee calls a week.
Mm-hmm.
I used to try to schedule it out, but, with what we do, it's sometimes difficult.
Right.
So I just when I have gaps, that's what I do.
That is a great little, if this is the right word, little technique, because one of the things that I hear from senior executives, it's a broad general category, is it's just really hard to find the time. It's hard to find the time to reach out and just connect with people and just call and say, how you doing? So a lot of times what I will recommend is that people actually put it on their calendar. And sometimes that works, but depending on the kind of business that you have, it may not. I mean, I could schedule a call with somebody, 2 weeks from now, and something happens and one of us can't make it. Yep. Because we're working with customers and dealing with the business. So I love what you're saying in that it makes spontaneity more of a habit.
Yep.
If and that sounds a little bit paradoxical, but what I'm hearing you say is, I'm going to do it from my side. When I've got a gap, I'm going to reach out, and maybe I'll connect and maybe I won't, but at least I know that I'm reaching out in the gap in my calendar. I would imagine that when somebody gets a call from you just out of the blue, I get calls from you out of the blue. I love it when I pick up my phone. It says, Cesar, Cesar's calling. We didn't have it scheduled. So I imagine your employees are doing the same thing. It's like, oh, hey, here's the boss. That's pretty cool. And you're not calling to beat the crap out of them for something. You're calling to say hi.
Yeah, and even if I don't reach them, Steve, it has that effect that I was thinking of them.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so I want to go back to this culture versus growth kind of a thing. Is it your intent to continue to grow EVOTEK, or are you happy kind of staying in this pocket?
The interesting part was, when you do grow out your business, one of the phenomenons is that you have, organizations that want to acquire you, right? If it's private equity, if it's our competitors. And, 3 years ago, we started, looking at, could we keep our culture intact, but have an organization come understand our culture, but help us, grow out our story or grow out our company faster? Are there capabilities that, people could help us expand quicker? And, in my article that I wrote just recently, we just recently decided to stay private, and we are very close in actually, bringing on a partner to actually help us, grow out our organization. And the company, when we talked to them, really did a great job of understanding our core values and talking to us about our core values.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of it, some of their due diligence with our customers and some of our partners really didn't go as well as I wanted it to go. And there was a sense, not just from me, which was beautiful, also from our leadership team, on our culture is going to change. And I decided to walk away. And it was a big paycheck, Steve, right? But there is no money worth selling out, our culture of our company, of our employees. And
so let me just stop you there for a second, because just to make sure that I'm hearing this right. So you are on the verge of being purchased. You started the conversation with this concern, and in the beginning they demonstrated that they were interested in maintaining EVOTEK's culture, values, and all that. But
yes.
when it got to the final hour, to the finish line, there was something in the way they interacted with your customers doing their due diligence that alerted you and your team that they were not, in fact, going to maintain your culture.
Yes.
So you decided to say no and walk away from a rather sizable paycheck.
Yes.
Because the culture comes first.
Yeah, culture comes first. If my employees are going to be affected, there's no amount of, like, it would have been easy for me to sign the deal, deposit a big check, and somewhat be okay with it in a small sense of, I started the business, this is what you do, but it just didn't feel right. It didn't feel good. And if my core values really do mean what I believe they mean to me, I need to walk away.
So that's a really extraordinary thing. I know you know that, and I'm not surprised, knowing you personally. But from a classic entrepreneurial standpoint, right? The reason a lot of people start companies is for that very thing. It's for the exit. I'm starting this to get out of it, and not really keeping in mind the impact that's going to have on the employees and your legacy and all that. So that's an extraordinary thing. And if that's not cultivating love, I don't know what is. It's also
real quick. I want to pause you on that, because I do a really good amount of mentoring in my community.
Yeah.
And when people come on their business plan on an exit already, I have never personally seen those businesses be successful. And I have seen so many, like, in 7 years we're going to sell, we're going to have a 10x return, we're going to do this, and I think when people do things straight for money, it's hard to get people excited about that.
Sure. And to be clear, it's not that you won't exit. It's not that exiting is a bad thing. It's just that you have a different set of criteria as to what would make that a good exit. And it's not just the financial side.
Exactly.
In fact, what you're saying is that is lower on the priority scale. At least it was for you in this case. So we have a couple of questions that are coming in. Okay. So for those of you who are watching on YouTube or Facebook, when you put comments in, we can actually see them in our little platform here. And for those of you who are commenting on LinkedIn, our producer Onib is keeping an eye on that. So apparently we have a few comments from LinkedIn as well. So Matt Brandt, who's an old dear friend of mine, I'm not saying he's old, but he's an old and dear friend, Is it PCs you're dealing with, or industrial backplanes or other?
So the majority of our business is helping our one of the other thoughts when we started the business was, how do we really serve the Fortune 500 companies, right? To me it was, it's a lot easier to build out a business if you could be impactful to these large organizations. So, in the beginning, it was a lot of advisory work for cybersecurity. How do we help make sure that we keep the bad actors in the world out of one of our customers' infrastructure? The second part of our business is a lot of data center. It's a lot of storage. It's a lot of servers. It's a lot of virtualization. And then the third part is the people part, right? That is probably about 90% of our business. Then we also do emerging technology, a little different than most of our competitors. We have basically a unit within EVOTEK called EVOTEK Labs that we spend time with basically the VCs out there that are bringing out new emerging technology. We vet out about 600 companies every year, and then we probably take about 4 to 5 out to market. And what gets them excited is we get to get them in front of these very large organizations, right? And we find out very quickly if we do a POC at XYZ company, if it's going to be able to scale, right? So we don't do PCs, we don't do laptops, we don't do cell phones. It's really a high-end infrastructure and then cybersecurity frameworks.
Got it. Great. Thank you. David Gershon, are your employees on campus, or are they spread out?
So when we originally started in late 2014, we had an office here in San Diego. We had an office in Las Vegas, and 80% of our employees were in the office. When COVID happened, we jumped on the bandwagon as everybody else and started working on remote. 90% of our employees are still remote. We want our employees to be in front of our customers. And we're probably right now, EVOTEK's in probably about 37 states from an employee standpoint. And, it has opened us up to be able to get top talent no matter where they're at.
Okay, so that begs the question then. The conventional wisdom says that the easiest way to build and maintain and grow a thriving culture is when you're all under the same roof. So I think we could all agree that in a lot of ways that would make it easier. But the flip side of that implies that you can't do it in a virtual setup, but you're obviously proving that you can. So how are you maintaining that culture when people are so spread out? Now, obviously, you mentioned a couple of things. There are some of the things that you do simply from a comp and benefits standpoint, right? That you're proving to people every day, providing proof that you love them by, for example, paying 100% of their healthcare, like you mentioned earlier. Over and above that kind of thing, how do you do that?
I think one of the things I'm probably most proud of at EVOTEK is we're very, very involved in our community. And our community is just not San Diego. It's anywhere that we have people at. And our community work that we do, it leads to us getting our people together and it's really, serving that mission, that cause. So like December 12th, we're going to do Rise Against Hunger. We're going to prepackage 70,000 meals to help with global hunger. And we'll probably get out of that event, if I had to guess, probably 400 of our customers, our partners, and our employees together in 4 different cities.
Wow.
Right. And then we send those meals to people that are in need. Right. We proactively, do probably 15 to 16 community events a year. And then we also do events with our customers and their mission and their cause. It's not about, the EVOTEK Giving Foundation only. It's about, things that our customers care about too, or our partners care about. So that's part of how we get our people together. Then we also do a yearly, we get all our employees together. And that's our sales kickoff. And then we have lots of touch points. If they're town halls, if there are quarterly business reviews, if they are, regional reviews. We touch our employees in face to face all the time, Steve. Right. And like I said, every single one of my leaders, go out to where our employees are at. We don't make our employees come and visit San Diego.
Right.
Right. We go out to where our customers and where our employees are at. It's part of leadership.
Yeah.
You show up.
Fantastic. And I love how you get when you're doing some kind of community outreach, you're involving, it's not just for the EVOTEK team, you're bringing your partners, your vendors, your customers, and it creates that bonding experience for you guys as well while you're benefiting the community.
And then the last thing that we do is we ask them to also bring their kids, right? How do you teach your kids how important community is? And you do what my kids have been doing community work with dad, for 15 years, and it's part of it, and it's a good teaching moment that we want our partners and our customers and our employees to teach the most important people in their lives.
That's great. So we have, I think, a couple of comments from LinkedIn as well. So if Onib can maybe give, where would I find those? In the private chat, perhaps? Yeah. So if you could, Onib, if you could put that in the chat, the private chat for us, or however you want to communicate that with us. So in the meantime, let me share the from my perspective, the story of how you and I first met. See if you remember it the same way. I believe it was actually on LinkedIn when I saw that, I don't know if you reached out to me or if I saw you post something, but it was something like you read the Radical Leap years ago and you reread it every year. And I remember this was during COVID, and I was living in the Little Italy neighborhood of San Diego at the time. So I connected with you on LinkedIn somehow, and then we got together for lunch outside, of course, because it was that time of human existence, and that was the beginning of a friendship, which has really been lovely. And like I said at the outset of the show, this is I mean, maybe it sounds pathetic, but this is how I make friends nowadays. So tell us a little bit about the why. I don't mean this as an infomercial, but I'm curious, why do you reread that book every year, and what does that LEAP framework do for you I mean, because you obviously, it's not like you were you were lost, and then you read this book, and suddenly you were found. There's, but there was something in there that complemented what you were already all about, I assume.
Yeah, and the first comment, for people that are listening to this, the best life hack ever, Steve, is being readers. Right? When I was really really young, I saw this quote, and it basically said, "And not all readers are leaders, but all leaders are readers," and it always stuck to me.
And it rhymes.
Yes, which I know you enjoy. Uh, and you know what? There are books that I do read every year. Um, you know, you know, you know, including yours, to really remind myself, because it's easy to think that the business is because of you. It's easy when you get awards that it becomes about how brilliant you might be or what you might think from an ego standpoint. And the reality is that that book does a really beautiful job of really talking about that. The day that you don't lead with love, uh, the day people are not, in my perspective, are really not going to follow you. And we've all worked for people that it's all about them. It's about there's always, I used to write articles about this early on, about some of these, some of my competitors that would buy jets and they would buy yachts, and they would buy it on the back of their hard work of their employees, and it just never felt right to me. So the radical leap has always given me the ability to make sure that humility is a part of our journey still. And there's a few books that I read, but and I haven't told you this. What I did when COVID happened, I looked at all the books that were impactful to me when I was in my 20s, and I decided to reread them. Right? They weren't my daily reads, but I wanted to look at what made them impactful when I was 27. Right? And it was such a beautiful journey on being able to read these books at a different place in your life.
Interesting.
And I still try to do some of that, because, like I said, my goal was to read 6 books a month, and I've been doing that since very early on, Steve. So I can't ever get to all the books.
Yeah.
But I just reread Les Miserables, and took me way too long, by the way. That book is way too big. But seeing it from a lens of a teenager to a lens of somebody later in their life was really interesting.
So, just as a side note, I don't know if you know this, but my son-in-law is in the touring cast of Les Miserables. Yeah. Understudy for Valjean. So he does that a couple times a month. But anyway, just a little brag moment. So what were those books from your 20s that you reread during COVID?
So Atlas Shrugged was one. Right? Les Miserables was one. There's a stage in my life that I really got into, like the Celestine Prophecy and Ishmael and I, and those types of books. Some of them I didn't read in my 20s, but like Tuesday with Morrie was one of my favorite books. It's still a yearly read.
Yeah.
The Alchemist is really kind of my book that I really do read every year. And there's another book called The Four Agreements.
Right. Sure.
right? And there's two other books called one is called The Last Lecture,
Mm-hmm.
right? And one is called Chasing Daylight. And it really makes you appreciate that. We only have so much time in this world, and nobody gets out of this world alive at the end of this.
Mm-hmm.
So the last 5 years, I've been really going on this whole Stoic philosophy, this whole journey.
Right.
Just got back from Athens with an individual. His name is Brian Johnson, and he has this movement called the Heroic, and it's been really, really, just calming for me to really kind of embrace that philosophy.
Yeah. So I know you and I have talked about Ryan Holiday before.
Yeah, great.
Obstacle is the way, and it's great stuff. I recommend that to my clients pretty frequently, actually. But there's something going on here that from a personal standpoint, your own personal development. It's pretty obvious that you, as a leader, as a CEO, as an entrepreneur, you take your ongoing personal development very seriously. Reading however many books, even reading one book a year, seems to be outside of the reach of a lot of business people. At least that's their perception of it, right? So as the CEO of a $500 million plus company, the question that I'm sure will be on some people's minds is, well, where the hell do you find time to do that? Where do you find time to read books and head off to Athens and do some of these trips that I know you take, like with your kids, because you want to expose them to different cultures, different parts of the world? How do you get the time to do that as a CEO?
Yeah, so I'm an early riser, Steve, as you know, right? So I go through 90 minutes every morning on journaling, reading, and then I'm most definitely very I try to be very strict on my habits of going to the gym, walking my dog, and trying to do the good habits. But if I'm not taking calls, if I'm walking my dog, I'm listening to Audible. At nighttime, instead of watching TV, I have a book in front of me. And it doesn't mean that, I am a fast reader, so I'm really blessed with that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you could find the time if you make it, part of knowing that the best investment in anything you do is yourself. And I tell that to my kids, like there's nothing better than developing your skills, whatever those skills are.
Well, you're not just telling it to your kids; you're modeling it for your kids.
Yeah.
As opposed to the old do as I do what I say, not as do as I say, not as I do, right? Or just do it because I'm the dad. We see a lot of that in the business world, right?
Yep.
People professing from their ivory tower as to what people in their organization should be doing and the values they should be living by, forgetting that the most powerful piece of evidence that we have for the value of a thing is in our own demonstration of that thing, right?
Yep.
Holding ourselves accountable to living in congruence with the words that we say should be important to everybody else, or the ideas that should be important to everybody else. So thank you for being a model of that for us. So as you look out, I mean, you've just passed this juncture where you came this close to selling the company, and you've kind of said, "Nope, I'm staying the course because I want to maintain our culture." As you look out over the next, I don't know, I'll take an arbitrary number, 3 to 5 years, because nowadays that seems like an eternity. So what are your aspirations for the company and for yourself, for your own continued and growing influence in the world?
Yeah, and from an EVOTEK standpoint, is staying the course. We're gonna at least stay private for 3 to 5 years. Um, and there are things that the great thing about this process also, Steve, is there's things that we saw there's gaps. When you have somebody take a look at your business, they do a beautiful job of telling you the gaps or the ugliness of things, right? They jump on it, right? And they jump on it because they want to try to devalue your company, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's very self-serving. Like, look, that's ugly. Like, what? Like, we pay for healthcare. That's a good thing. No, that's expensive, right? But there are things that that we learn through this process that we can do to make our organization stronger. I have my leadership meeting that we do our 2025 planning on Thursday, and we're gonna start trying to implement some of those ideas. I took a pause last time when you said attract and keep. We do a good job of attracting. Our goal is not, when we do hire people, we used to have this philosophy: we want this to be your last job ever. We've kind of taken a step back from that.
Interesting.
And the reason we've taken a step back from it is that one of the beautiful things about our organization is I don't need to get on people if they're not really improving our environment for our people. Like, because of the culture now, if somebody's not doing the work, if somebody's trying to come in and working part-time, people call it out very quickly. Right. So what I am 100% convinced now, and I've probably been there for probably about 4 years, is that we do a good job of hiring people, but this environment's not for everyone.
Right.
And that's okay. That doesn't make them bad people. They could be really, really successful in the industry, but they just don't fit us. So we've been good the last 4 years of swinging the bat with people, and if they don't work out, we do it compassionately as possible when we do let go of people.
Right.
But the idea is to attract, but it's not always to keep.
Yeah.
It's so like people don't talk about that.
Well, the idea is, so there are a couple of things there. First of all, it's a great example of how, there's this stereotype of, when I talk about building a culture that's based on love, the stereotype is, oh, you're saying that you want to build a culture where everything's okay and everybody's happy all the time, and it's all group hugs and flowers and hearts, and the truth is that companies that are really based on a culture of love, like EVOTEK, love for the company and love for the work that you're doing and love for the customers most of the time means higher expectations of each other. And when people don't meet those expectations, they're obviously not right for the place, and they shouldn't be there. And that's tough love, but it's still love. And then you're constantly kind of refining the culture and creating mutual expectations that means that you keep the right people. So, but part two to that is, when I say attract and keep, it's attracting and keeping those right people, right?
Yeah.
So when somebody's right for the culture, I'm assuming chances are pretty good they're going to hang around for a long time. And if they leave, it's because they have an opportunity that they want to pursue, and that ain't bad either, right?
No, and we support that. We just had somebody who just recently, resigned. We liked her resume. She had a social justice background, Steve, and she got her dream job doing social justice. And we supported that, right? We if somebody wants to give back to community full time, it's a beautiful thing, right? And so when people do decide also, because we it's not often, but when we do have people that decide to leave EVOTEK on their own, we thank them. This company would not have grown without some of our amazing past employees. And we say thank you, right? We don't get bitter. We don't try to, litigate somebody on staying. We don't do any of that. We want people that want to be here because we're going to get their best efforts.
And people that exit in that sort of a way become great ambassadors for the company out there in the world at large, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, I'll take myself as an example. I joined the Tom Peters Company in 1994. I left in 2000 to go out on my own because I had something that I wanted to say, and I had things that I wanted to explore in terms of the way that I worked that didn't really fit the company's business model at the time. And I transitioned out over a period of 6 months and had great support from everybody in the company, including Tom Peters, maybe even especially him, because that was our philosophy. And it's true. I've been, not that the company's around anymore, but I was probably their greatest ambassador for a long time. So it's this beautiful kind of continuum that you bring somebody into the fold, they experience the EVOTEK culture, and if it's right for them, they stay for a long time. They build these relationships, and if they leave, they leave under the best possible circumstances.
Absolutely.
So as we bring this in for a landing, first of all, thank you again, Cesar, for spending this time with us. I know you could have been reading, but anything that you'd like as kind of parting words for our listeners as they're considering, where they are in their own leadership development, whether it's within their companies or if they're solopreneurs or entrepreneurs or people in the, in the thick of the corporate world. Any last little bits of advice for us?
Yeah, the one advice I like to actually give young people is embrace failure. I learn more from falling down and failing and going, ooh, that didn't work out. What could I learn from it? And like I said, I started in EVOTEK in 2006, and that was a big failure, right? So, and you've heard me say this, Steve, I'm the most comfortable being uncomfortable, and, being curious and failing and learning from it is how you grow. There's no way you could grow without resistance, without failures, without, learning.
That's a great gem of wisdom. And, I think we say this, the grand we, the capital W we say this to each other a lot. We learn from failure. Failure is good, but it never, or I would say it rarely feels good at the time, right? It's not like you're crashing and burning like this is awesome. Look at me going down in flames. But there is something about having that perspective, even in the moment, about, that awareness that says, no, this doesn't feel good right now, but I know there's a great lesson in this. That is, it can be really helpful to all of us, even though we don't enjoy the experience at the time.
Yeah. And you know what? And the more you kind of I think that's one of the reasons why the Stoic philosophy has really, why I've leaned into it. It's, you read the obstacles the way, right? You learn so much, and if you're really curious, even your failures, if you're going through it, now when there's times that I see things maybe going south or sideways, and I'm like, okay, what am I going to learn from this?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And my ears and my eyes are wide open, and I'm just taking it in, right? And there's no way you could grow unless you go through that.
So I think that's a beautiful perspective, to have the presence of mind, so that even in the experience of something going south, let's say, to be asking yourself in the moment, what can I learn from this, is kind of an advanced step that we should all be working towards, because it's a big deal. It's even a big deal to ask that question in the aftermath. A lot of people don't even do that, to look back and say, oh, that hurt. What did I learn from that? So I can, first of all, not repeat that same mistake, but even better, to expand on my future success as a result of it. But to have that presence of mind in the moment means just allowing ourselves to experience.
Yep.
Without judgment, right? Experience without judgment.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, thank you again, my friend. And everybody, I'd encourage you, not just because I'm the author, but because Cesar says so, to go to radicalleap.org and download your free copy of the Radical Leap audiobook, so I can live in your ear while you're listening to it. Just imagine this voice in your ear for several hours. And I really hope you do. And thank you for joining us today. And we'll see you next time on the Leap Hour. Thank you, Cesar.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you for joining me on the Leap Hour. Hope you enjoyed our time together. If you did, please like, subscribe, and share the heck out of this thing. Also, don't forget to get your free copy of the Radical Leap audio at radicalleap.org. We'll see you next time on the Leap Hour.